No doctor could save the billionaire's dying mom, until the maid's daughter healed her instantly. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's incredible story. In a lavish mansion nestled in the heart of a quiet, exclusive neighborhood, the air was thick with tension. Callahan Vance, a billionaire known for his ruthless business tactics, sat by the bedside of his ailing mother, Margaret Vance. Doctors from all over the country had been summoned to her side, but despite their advanced knowledge and experience, they were at a loss. Margaret had been battling a rare and aggressive illness for months, and her condition had worsened rapidly. Her once vibrant spirit was now a faint whisper, and the doctor's prognosis was grim. "There's nothing more we can do," one of the top specialists had said just hours before, his voice heavy with regret. "Her body is simply giving up. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance." Callahan, normally unshaken in the face of adversity, was visibly shaken. His empire was built on precision, control, and power. Yet, in this moment, all the wealth in the world seemed useless. His mother, the woman who had raised him from nothing, was slipping away, and he could do nothing to stop it. But there was one person in the house who wasn't a doctor, wasn't a billionaire, and wasn't part of his world of luxury and power. Her name was Lily, and she was just the maid's daughter. Lily had always kept to herself, silently working in the background, often unnoticed by the family. She was quiet, with an unassuming presence, and she had always been told to stay out of the way. But today, everything was about to change. As Callahan paced nervously in the hallway outside his mother's room, his thoughts racing, he caught sight of Lily. She was carrying a tray of tea for the doctors, her footsteps light, her face expressionless. She had never been one to draw attention, yet there was something different about her today. Something in her eyes, something in the way she carried herself, seemed to suggest that she knew more than anyone gave her credit for. Callahan stopped in his tracks and watched her for a moment, his mind whirling with thoughts he couldn't quite grasp. He had never paid much attention to her before, but today, something about her presence felt like a lifeline. Without thinking, he called out to her. "Lily," he said, his voice tight with frustration and desperation. "Do you know anything about medicine?" Lily froze for a moment, her heart racing in her chest. She had heard the panic in Callahan's voice, and it startled her. She had no medical training, nothing that would be of use in this situation. But she had something else, something she had inherited from her grandmother, a woman who had practiced herbal medicine and healing techniques for years. Lily had spent her childhood learning these methods, though she had never dared to speak of them, knowing that no one would take her seriously. Today, however, was different. Callahan was desperate. His mother was dying, and he had no other options. With a shaky breath, Lily walked toward him. I might know something," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Callahan, not expecting much, looked at her with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "What do you mean?" he asked, his tone more out of frustration than hope. Lily hesitated, then nodded. "I've seen some things my grandmother did. She was a healer. I think I could help." Callahan studied her for a moment. Then, with a deep sigh, he nodded. "All right," he said, his voice low. "Give it a try, but we have to act fast." As they entered his mother's room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The doctors were still gathered around Margaret's bed, their faces grim. Lily stepped forward, her heart pounding, but she didn't let her nerves show. She had a plan, one she had learned from her grandmother, and it was time to put it into action. As Lily stood at the entrance of Margaret Vance's bedroom, she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The doctors had tried everything they could, and now, they were waiting for her. The room was heavy with the scent of antiseptic and the faint hum of machines keeping Margaret alive. Callahan Vance stood beside her, his face pale with concern, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He had no idea if what Lily was suggesting would work, but at this point, he was willing to try anything. He turned to the doctors and nodded. "Step aside," he said. "Let her try." The doctors exchanged puzzled glances but didn't object. They had no other options. Lily walked past them with a quiet determination. She had never done anything like this in front of so many people, but she knew this was her chance. She had to try, even if it meant putting herself under the harsh spotlight of disbelief. She approached Margaret's bed slowly, her heart beating in her chest. Margaret lay there, fragile and pale, barely able to move. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin had a sickly, ashen hue. The machines beeped at regular intervals, monitoring her failing vitals. Lily reached out and placed a hand on Margaret's wrist, feeling the coldness of her skin. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to center herself. Then, with a deep breath, she began to speak softly under her breath, reciting the old healing chants her grandmother had taught her. She had been raised with these remedies, these ancient techniques passed down from her family's long history of herbal medicine and natural healing. But she had never been asked to perform them under such dire circumstances. Her grandmother always said that healing came from within, but it was more than just herbs and oils. It was about energy, focus, and intention. As Lily spoke the words, she felt a warmth begin to spread through her fingers, as if the energy of the earth itself was flowing through her. She wasn't sure what was happening, but she knew she had to stay focused. Callahan watched her with a mixture of skepticism and hope. He had seen many things in his life, but this was something he had never imagined. The doctors stood at the edge of the room, unsure of what to do. They exchanged wary glances, but there was nothing they could do to stop it. They were all out of answers. As Lily continued to speak in a low, rhythmic tone, a soft glow seemed to envelop her hands. Margaret's breathing, which had been shallow and erratic, began to stabilize. It was subtle at first, just a slight deepening of the breaths, but it was enough to make everyone in the room stop and take notice. Callahan took a step closer, his heart racing. Was this possible? Could she really be saving his mother? After several minutes, Lily finished the final chant, and she slowly removed her hands from Margaret's wrist. The room fell into an eerie silence as everyone waited to see if anything had changed. Margaret's eyes fluttered open, and for the first time in weeks, there was a spark of recognition in them. She looked around the room, confused but not in pain. The machines that had been beeping at irregular intervals now showed steady, healthy readings. Callahan's breath caught in his throat as he looked at his mother, who was now more alert than she had been in days. The doctors rushed to her side, their faces a mix of disbelief and awe. They checked her vitals and performed another set of tests, but the results were clear. Margaret was improving. It wasn't a miracle, they told themselves. It had to be some kind of coincidence. But the truth was undeniable. She was better. Slowly, the doctors began to leave the room, murmuring to one another, but not a single one of them could explain what had just happened. Callahan turned to Lily, his expression a mix of gratitude and disbelief. "How did you do that?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Lily looked up at him, her expression calm but tired. "I didn't do anything," she said softly. "I just helped her body do what it already wanted to do." Callahan didn't know how to respond. All he knew was that in this room, at this moment, Lily had given him back the most precious thing in his life, his mother. It was impossible to understand, but it was real. And for the first time in days, Callahan allowed himself to believe in the impossible. The days that followed Margaret's recovery were filled with an overwhelming sense of disbelief. The doctors continued to monitor her, unable to explain the sudden improvement in her health, but everyone knew that something extraordinary had taken place. Callahan, the stoic billionaire who had once prided himself on being in control of every aspect of his life, now found himself deeply indebted to Lily, the maid's daughter. He could not shake the image of her standing in the room, calm and composed, while the medical professionals had failed where she succeeded. As the days passed, Margaret regained strength, sitting up in bed, engaging in conversations, and slowly, but surely, returning to her former self. Callahan could hardly believe what he was witnessing. He had spent his life acquiring wealth and power, but none of that could have saved his mother. It was the quiet, unassuming girl, the maid's daughter, who had done what no doctor could. It was a truth that both humbled and haunted him. Callahan found himself seeking out Lily more and more. He watched her as she moved through the mansion, her presence subtle but undeniable. It was hard for him to reconcile the image of the young woman who had once been invisible in his world with the miracle worker who had saved his mother's life. One evening, As Lily finished her work and was about to leave for the day, Callahan stopped her. "Lily," he said, his voice softer than usual, "I need to talk to you." She turned to him, her expression guarded. "Of course, Mr. Vance. What is it?" He hesitated, unsure of how to phrase the words he had been thinking for days. "You saved my mother. I can never thank you enough for that. But I need to understand. How did you know what to do? What gave you the ability to heal her when no one else could?" Lily looked at him for a moment, her gaze steady. She could see the weight of the question in his eyes, the genuine curiosity, mixed with something deeper, a need to understand something that defied explanation. She knew this moment was coming. She had never intended for her abilities to be revealed like this, but now that they had been, she felt a responsibility to speak the truth. "It's not something I learned in school," she said, her voice calm. "It's something passed down in my family, from my grandmother. She was a healer, someone who used natural remedies and herbs to help people when the doctors couldn't. I've always known there was something in me, something that allowed me to understand how to help people, to feel what they needed to heal." Callahan listened intently, the weight of her words settling on him. He had spent his entire life relying on logic and science, but here she was, explaining something that went beyond both. "I never told anyone about it," Lily continued, "because it's not something people understand. I didn't want to be seen as a fraud or a charlatan. But when I saw your mother, when I saw her struggling, I couldn't just stand by. I knew I had to try, even if it meant risking everything." Callahan felt a surge of admiration for her bravery. She had done something he had never expected, not just for his mother, but for him as well. She had shown him a side of life he had never truly understood, one that didn't rely on money or power, but on empathy, knowledge, and heart. "I owe you everything," Callahan said, his voice thick with emotion. "And I'm not just talking about my mother's life. I owe you for showing me a world beyond my own. A world where healing isn't just about doctors and medicine, but about something more." Lily lowered her gaze, her expression softening. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight, but she could see the sincerity in Callahan's eyes. He wasn't just offering her gratitude. He was offering her something more. "You don't owe me anything," she replied quietly. "I did what I had to do. I couldn't just let your mother suffer. That's all." But Callahan wasn't satisfied with just gratitude. He had a vision now, one that extended beyond the walls of his mansion. "No," he said firmly. "You've opened my eyes to something bigger than all of us. I want to help you, Lily. Whatever it is you need, I want to support you. Your talents, your knowledge, they shouldn't be hidden. I want to make sure the world knows what you can do." Lily looked at him, a mix of surprise and skepticism crossing her face. "You want to help me? How?" Callahan smiled, a hint of determination in his eyes. "I'm going to make sure you get the recognition you deserve. We'll create something together, something that brings natural healing and alternative medicine to the forefront. You'll teach others, help those who can't afford the best treatments, just like you helped my mother. It's time for the world to see you for who you really are." Lily's heart swelled with a mix of disbelief and hope. This was more than she had ever dreamed of. Maybe, just maybe, her talents could be used for good on a scale she had never imagined. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something far greater than she could have ever anticipated. Over the next few weeks, Lily's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. Callahan had kept his promise. He didn't just thank her for saving his mother's life. He actively worked to give her a platform, to let the world see her as she truly was. Callahan's influence, his vast network, and his deep pockets opened doors that Lily never thought possible. She was invited to speak at conferences, to give lectures about natural healing, to share her knowledge with doctors and scientists. But despite all the recognition and praise, Lily remained humble, always crediting her grandmother for teaching her the ways of healing. She had never been one to seek attention, but now, as the spotlight shone on her, she couldn't deny that she felt a sense of pride in her work. It wasn't just about healing the sick. It was about proving that there were other ways to approach medicine, other methods that could complement the traditional treatments that had failed so many. Callahan, too, had changed. The businessman who had once been consumed by wealth and power now found himself deeply invested in Lily's mission. He had seen firsthand the power of her abilities, and it had opened his eyes to a world he had long ignored. The world of those who didn't have the money to access the best care, the world of people like Lily, who had so much to offer but had been hidden in the shadows. His support went beyond just funding. He helped set up a foundation to provide free medical care for those who couldn't afford it, bringing together doctors, herbalists, and natural healers to collaborate on treatments. The foundation quickly gained traction, drawing attention from all over the world. Lily's grandmother's teachings were now being shared with others, spreading the knowledge that had once been a secret in her family. It was overwhelming at times, but Lily knew she was doing the right thing. She had always wanted to help people, but now, with Callahan's backing, she was able to reach so many more. As the foundation grew, Lily found herself spending more time traveling, meeting people who had been healed by her methods. She was humbled by their stories, by the impact she had on their lives. Yet, in the midst of all this success, there was one thing that still weighed heavily on her mind. Her mother. Lily's mother, Abigail, had worked tirelessly for years, cleaning the mansions and serving the wealthy. She had always been a quiet, hard-working woman who never complained. But Lily could see the toll it had taken on her. She had sacrificed so much to give Lily the opportunities she had now, and Lily knew it was time to give back. One afternoon, Lily found herself sitting in the small apartment she shared with her mother, looking at the piles of bills on the table. Abigail sat across from her, her hands resting on her lap, her face tired but content. "I've been thinking," Lily said, breaking the silence. "It's time we moved. We don't need to live like this anymore. I want to take care of you, Mom. You've done so much for me, and now it's my turn." Abigail looked at her daughter, a soft smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Lily, you don't need to worry about me. I'm fine. You're doing incredible things. That's all that matters to me." But Lily shook her head. "No, Mom. You've always put me first. Now it's my turn to make sure you have everything you need." As the conversation went on, Abigail finally agreed, though she was reluctant to accept Lily's generosity. Lily knew it wouldn't be easy to change everything they had known, but it was time. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Lily used her newfound wealth to move her mother into a comfortable home, one where she no longer had to worry about working herself to exhaustion just to get by. The foundation continued to grow, and Lily's work as a healer gained more and more recognition. Callahan, ever supportive, even helped her create a healing clinic that offered both traditional and alternative treatments. It was a dream come true for Lily, but it was also a new chapter in her life, one that she had never expected but was more than ready to embrace. She had gone from being the maid's daughter, overlooked and underestimated, to a leader in the healing community, touching the lives of thousands. And through it all, she never forgot where she came from. Her work, her healing, and her success were not just for her, but for the people like her mother, who had spent their lives serving others without ever asking for anything in return. As the years passed, Lily's reputation as a healer continued to grow, but she never lost sight of the importance of humility and compassion. She had learned from the best, and now, she was passing on those lessons to others. The foundation she had built became a legacy, one that would live on long after her. And as she sat in her new home, surrounded by the love and support of her mother and the people whose lives she had changed, she knew that no matter how far she had come, she would never forget the lesson that had brought her here. True power lies in the ability to heal, to give, and to lift others up. As time passed, Lily's healing clinic became a beacon of hope for those who had nowhere else to turn. The foundation she and Callahan built together grew exponentially, reaching communities across the country. More and more people from all walks of life were seeking her help, and Lily was grateful for every opportunity to make a difference. Yet, despite the success, Lily often found herself reflecting on her past, on the quiet days before everything had changed. She remembered the life she had lived with her mother, the constant struggle, and the humility that had shaped her character. She knew that the true measure of success wasn't in the accolades or the recognition. It was in the lives she touched and the hearts she healed. Callahan, too, had evolved. The billionaire who had once believed that wealth and power could solve any problem was now someone who understood the importance of compassion, humility, and community. He spent less time in boardrooms and more time at the clinic, learning from Lily and helping her reach even more people. Together, they had created something that was bigger than either of them. But despite their growing success, there were still moments when Lily felt uncertain. She had never sought fame, never craved the spotlight. She had simply wanted to help others, to make a difference in the world. And now that she had the platform to do so, she sometimes wondered if she was worthy of it all. One evening, as she sat alone in her office at the clinic, Callahan entered, his expression serious. "Lily," he said, his voice low, "there's something I need to talk to you about." Lily looked up from her work, a little surprised by his tone. "What's going on?" she asked. Callahan hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot about the foundation, about everything we've built together. And I think it's time we take the next step. We need to expand, reach even more people, globally." Lily's heart skipped a beat. The idea of expanding the foundation was thrilling, but it also came with challenges she wasn't sure she was ready for. She started, but Callahan interrupted. "I know it's a big leap, but we have the resources, the support, and the people behind us. This is our chance to make a lasting impact on a global scale. Think of all the people we could help, all the lives we could change." Lily looked at him, unsure of what to say. She had always been cautious, never rushing into anything without careful thought. But Callahan's words rang in her ears. This was the opportunity she had always dreamed of, an opportunity to truly make a difference in the world. She took a deep breath, considering the enormity of the decision. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steady. "Let's do it. Let's take the foundation global." The decision was made, and soon, the foundation began to grow beyond their wildest dreams. They partnered with international organizations, reached out to governments, and brought their message of healing and compassion to every corner of the globe. Lily found herself traveling to countries she had only dreamed of visiting, meeting people who had never experienced the type of care she was offering. The more she saw, the more she realized how much work still needed to be done. But the sense of purpose she felt was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. As the years went by, Lily's name became synonymous with healing, not just in the United States, but around the world. She became a symbol of hope for those who had nowhere else to turn. And through it all, she never forgot the lessons she had learned from her grandmother, or the journey that had brought her here. She had started as the maid's daughter, overlooked and underestimated, but now she was a leader in the world of healing, changing lives with every step. And as she stood in front of a crowd at an international conference, speaking about the power of alternative medicine, she realized that everything she had gone through, the struggles, the doubts, the challenges, had led her to this moment. She had found her purpose, and in doing so, had found a way to help the world heal. As Lily's foundation continued to grow, so did the pressure. The global expansion she had agreed to was not without its challenges. There were always new hurdles to overcome, cultural differences, logistical issues, and the constant balancing act between maintaining the clinic's core values and meeting the demands of a rapidly growing network. But despite the challenges, Lily had never felt more alive. Every new partnership, every successful treatment, was a testament to the hard work and determination she had put into this mission. And then, just when everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place, the world threw her a curveball. One evening, as she sat in her office reviewing reports, her phone rang. It was Callahan. "Lily, we need to talk," he said, his voice unusually serious. Her heart skipped a beat. "What's going on?" she asked. "There's something I didn't expect to happen. Some of the larger pharmaceutical companies are pushing back on the work we're doing. They don't like the idea of natural healing methods gaining ground," he explained. Lily's stomach dropped. She had always known there would be resistance from the traditional medical community, but hearing it from Callahan, the man who had been her greatest ally, made it feel real. "What are they doing?" she asked, her voice tense. "They're starting to lobby against us. They've got the resources to sway public opinion, and they're trying to influence government regulations. They're worried that our model will take away from their profits." The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. Lily knew this was coming, but now that it was here, she felt the weight of it all. "What should we do?" she asked, trying to steady her thoughts. Callahan's response was firm. "We fight back, but we do it smartly. We don't want to alienate the medical community completely. We need allies. We need to keep the momentum going, show people that our methods work." Lily nodded, even though Callahan couldn't see it. She knew what had to be done. She had spent her life working in the shadows, helping people who had nowhere else to turn. But now, she was at the forefront of something much bigger than herself. This wasn't just about healing. It was about changing the way the world viewed medicine. Over the next few weeks, Lily and Callahan worked tirelessly to build a counter-strategy. They reached out to alternative medicine advocates, scientists, and even a few forward-thinking doctors who saw the value in combining traditional and natural healing methods. They launched a media campaign, highlighting the success stories from their clinic and showcasing the people who had been healed through their methods. Slowly but surely, they began to turn the tide. But just when they thought they were gaining ground, disaster struck. A major health scare rocked the world, and the pharmaceutical companies took full advantage of the situation. They seized the opportunity to push their agenda even harder, creating fear and uncertainty about alternative healing. The media was flooded with stories about the dangers of unregulated treatments. Lily was devastated. She had worked so hard to build something that could truly help people, and now it seemed like everything was falling apart. One night, as she sat in her office, staring at the endless sea of negative headlines, Callahan called again. "We've got a problem," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "The backlash is worse than we thought. We need to act quickly, or we risk losing everything." Lily's heart sank. She had always believed in the power of natural healing, but now, it felt like the world was turning against her. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Callahan didn't hesitate. "We go on the offensive. We show the world the truth. We prove that our methods work, and we do it publicly. We can't let fear control the narrative." The next few days were a blur. Lily and Callahan worked around the clock to prepare a massive public demonstration. They gathered testimonials from patients, doctors, and experts who could vouch for the effectiveness of their treatments. They invited the media, prepared scientific data, and set up live streams to show the world the power of what they had built. When the day finally came, the pressure was unbearable. Lily stood in front of a crowd of journalists, medical professionals, and patients, feeling the weight of the moment. But as she looked out at the faces before her, she knew that this was what she had to do. She had to fight for what she believed in. As the live stream began, she stepped forward, her voice steady but passionate. "What we are doing here is not just about healing. It's about changing the way we think about medicine. It's about giving people choices, and it's about trusting in the power of the human body to heal itself," she said, her words carrying through the room. The demonstration was a success. As the weeks passed, the media coverage began to shift. The public was beginning to see the benefits of combining traditional medicine with alternative healing. Slowly but surely, Lily's vision for a new world of healthcare began to take shape. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time in months, Lily felt like she had taken control. She wasn't just fighting for her clinic or for her foundation. She was fighting for a future where healing wasn't limited by money or status, but by the genuine desire to help others. In the months that followed the public demonstration, Lily's foundation gained significant traction. The public's perception of alternative medicine was beginning to shift, and more people were turning to her clinic for healing. However, as her reach expanded, so did the pressure. The pharmaceutical companies had not given up their fight, and their influence continued to create obstacles for Lily's mission. They launched a smear campaign against her, questioning the validity of her methods and casting doubt on her credibility. Despite their efforts, Lily remained undeterred. She knew that change didn't come easily, and she was ready for the challenge. What she didn't anticipate, however, was the toll this battle would take on her personal life. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning sessions, Lily returned home to find her mother, Abigail, waiting for her. Abigail had always been her rock, a woman who had sacrificed everything for Lily's future, but tonight, there was a look in her eyes that Lily couldn't ignore. "Lily," Abigail said gently, "I can see how hard you're working, but you've been neglecting yourself. You're not sleeping, you're not eating right, and you're burning the candle at both ends. I'm worried about you." Lily felt a pang of guilt. She had been so focused on her mission, so determined to make a difference, that she had lost sight of her own well-being. She had always pushed herself hard, driven by a deep sense of responsibility, but now, she realized that her relentless pursuit of success was starting to take its toll. "I'm fine, Mom," she replied, trying to brush it off. "There's just so much to do, and the foundation needs me." Abigail shook her head, her eyes filled with concern. "The foundation may need you, but you can't pour from an empty cup, Lily. You have to take care of yourself first. You can't help anyone if you're not healthy." Lily knew her mother was right. She had always put others before herself, but now, it was clear that she had to find a balance. She had to care for her own health if she wanted to continue helping others. The next day, she made the decision to slow down. She began to delegate more tasks, trusting her team to take charge while she focused on self-care. She spent more time with her mother, reconnecting and finding moments of peace amidst the chaos. As Lily took a step back and allowed herself to rest, she realized that the work she was doing wasn't just about building a global healing network. It was also about leading by example. She had to show the world that true wellness wasn't just physical. It was mental and emotional, too. As she focused on restoring her own health, she also began to encourage her patients to do the same. She spoke openly about the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, and of listening to one's body. Slowly but surely, the pressures of running the foundation became more manageable. She had learned to embrace help from others, and she had learned that taking a break didn't mean giving up. It meant becoming stronger. One evening, as she sat on the porch with Abigail, watching the sunset, Lily felt a sense of calm wash over her. For the first time in months, she felt at peace. She had accomplished so much already, and the foundation was on track to make an even greater impact in the years to come. She wasn't alone in this journey. She had the support of Callahan, her dedicated team, and most importantly, her mother. The challenges were far from over, but Lily now understood that the key to overcoming them was not just perseverance, it was balance. As she reflected on how far she had come, Lily knew that her work was just beginning. The world was starting to embrace alternative medicine, but there was still so much more to do. She had proven that healing could come from unexpected places, but now, she was ready to take her message even further. She was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was a leader, an advocate, and a force for change. And with the strength she had gained from taking care of herself, Lily knew she could face whatever came next with confidence and grace. As the months passed, Lily's foundation continued to thrive, expanding its reach to even more people in need. The success of the clinic and the healing methods she championed was undeniable. Yet, as the foundation grew, so did the complexity of managing it. With each new clinic opening and every new patient, Lily found herself juggling more responsibilities. She realized that the work she was doing had the potential to change not only the lives of her patients, but also the entire healthcare system. But with the growing recognition came increasing scrutiny. Pharmaceutical companies, and some in the medical establishment, had not given up their fight to discredit alternative medicine. They continued to target Lily's methods, casting doubts on their effectiveness and raising concerns about safety. It seemed like every time Lily took a step forward, there was someone or something trying to pull her back. But she refused to let it deter her. With Callahan's continued support and the strength she had found in herself, she pushed forward. It wasn't just about proving the doubters wrong. It was about providing people with real choices. As the pressure mounted, Lily began to feel the weight of the battle. There were moments when the constant tension and uncertainty felt overwhelming. One evening, as she sat in her office late at night, reviewing reports, she received a call that would change everything. It was Callahan, his voice urgent. "Lily, you need to see this," he said. "There's something happening with the foundation, something you won't believe." Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "What is it?" she asked. Callahan hesitated before speaking again. "We've been hacked. All of our patient records, our research data, everything has been stolen. It's not just an attack on the foundation. It's an attack on everything we've worked for." Lily's heart raced. She had known that the foundation's success would make her a target, but this was different. This wasn't just a smear campaign or a political fight. This was an attempt to destroy everything she had built. "What are we going to do?" Lily asked, her voice steady despite the fear that was creeping in. "We fight back," Callahan replied. "I've already contacted cybersecurity experts, and we're tracing the source. We'll make sure this doesn't stop us." In the days that followed, the Foundation's team worked tirelessly to recover the stolen data and secure their systems. The attack had been carefully planned, and the damage was extensive, but the team's resolve was even stronger. Lily, however, couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. As they worked to protect their research and restore their reputation, it became clear that someone was trying to discredit everything they stood for. But Lily wasn't about to back down. She had built the foundation from nothing, and no one, no matter how powerful, was going to take it away from her. She doubled down on her commitment to transparency, making sure that every success and every breakthrough was shared with the public. She opened the doors to the clinic even wider, inviting experts from around the world to collaborate and learn from what they were doing. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The public, once skeptical, began to see the impact of Lily's work. Patients who had been healed through her methods shared their stories, and the media began to cover the foundation's successes in a more positive light. But it wasn't just the public that was changing. Lily had become more than just a healer. She had become a symbol of resilience. She had faced down powerful opponents, recovered from a devastating attack, and continued to move forward with unwavering determination. But as the foundation grew, Lily found herself grappling with the question of how much further she could take it. She had always been driven by the desire to help others, but now, she was wondering whether it was time to step back and let others take the lead. She had achieved so much, but she couldn't help but feel that there was still so much left to do. One evening, as she sat with Callahan in the quiet of her office, she shared her doubts. "I've built something incredible, but I can't do this alone anymore," she said. "I need help, and I need to know that the work will continue, even if I'm not the one driving it forward." Callahan looked at her with understanding. "You've created a legacy, Lily," he said, "and that legacy will continue, no matter what. You've already changed the world in ways most people will never even understand. Now it's time to share that power with others." Lily smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She had never imagined her life would take this turn, but now, with the foundation in good hands and the support of her team, she knew that the fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. As time went on, Lily's foundation continued to thrive, and the ripple effect of her work began to spread even further. The once small initiative she had started with Callahan had now evolved into a global movement, changing the way the world viewed medicine. But with every step forward came new challenges. The resistance from the traditional medical community, though not as vocal as before, still lingered in the background. Yet, Lily had learned to focus on the impact she was making, not the opposition she faced. She knew that true change required persistence, and she was more determined than ever to ensure that her mission would live on. One day, after a long meeting with her team, Lily sat back in her chair, looking out of the window of her office. The view was breathtaking, a reminder of how far she had come. But as she gazed out, she realized that the work she had done, while immensely rewarding, was never just about her. It was about the people she had helped, the patients who had walked through her clinic's doors, the families whose lives had been transformed, the doctors and practitioners who had come to believe in the power of alternative healing. They were the reason she had fought so hard, and they were the ones who kept her going. She smiled softly to herself. It had been a journey of self-discovery and transformation. From the maid's daughter to the leader of a global movement, she had come to understand that true leadership wasn't about power or recognition. It was about making a difference in the lives of others. But now, as the foundation continued to expand, she knew it was time to take a step back and let others take the lead. She had created something that would last far beyond her own efforts, something that would continue to grow and evolve in ways she hadn't even imagined. One evening, as she sat with Callahan, they discussed the future of the foundation. "It's time, Callahan," Lily said quietly. "I've done everything I set out to do, and now I need to let the next generation take over. I can't do this forever. But I know the foundation will continue to grow, and I trust the team we've built. They're ready." Callahan looked at her, a mixture of pride and understanding in his eyes. "You've created something that will last. You've inspired countless people, and you've given them a voice. You've changed the world, Lily, and that's something no one can ever take away from you." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She had poured her heart and soul into the foundation, and now it was time to pass the torch. She didn't need the spotlight anymore. She had already achieved more than she ever thought possible, and as she looked out at the horizon, she knew that her journey was far from over. It wasn't about the accolades or the fame. It was about continuing to do the work that mattered, to continue helping those in need, and to leave a legacy that would inspire future generations. As the foundation continued to grow and evolve, Lily knew that the best was yet to come. The world was changing, and she had been a part of that change. And with a heart full of gratitude and a sense of purpose, she knew that her journey had just begun. She had started as the maid's daughter, underestimated and unseen, but now she was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of one person to make a difference. And as she moved forward, she would continue to do what she had always done: help others, heal the world, and be a force for positive change. Millionaire stories often showcase incredible transformations, and this one is no different. From the humble beginnings of a maid's daughter to becoming a global leader in alternative medicine, this millionaire story highlights the power of resilience, compassion, and determination. With the help of influential allies, including a billionaire who saw the potential in her, she built a foundation that not only healed individuals, but also changed the way the world perceived medicine. Along the way, she faced opposition from powerful forces, but her drive to make a difference kept her going. Her story is a reminder that wealth and power are not the only things that define success. In this millionaire story, it's the desire to help others that truly leads to greatness. As she navigates the challenges of global expansion and public scrutiny, she never loses sight of her mission: to provide hope, healing, and choice for people who need it most. Her journey is an inspiring tale of how one person's vision can reshape the world. This millionaire story teaches us that true success lies in the positive impact we make on the lives of others. From the shadows to the spotlight, she overcame adversity and achieved a legacy that will continue to inspire future generations. These millionaire stories remind us that even the smallest voice can create lasting change. As her foundation grows and evolves, she steps back to pass the torch, confident that the work will continue and the impact will be felt for years to come.